So, so today I kind of want to piggyback. First of all, I'm sorry. Let me say good morning to everyone on the panel. We got Randy, we got Janelle, and we got Mrs. Taryn Bobier. Um, so we're gonna go
Morning.
kind of piggyback off what we were talking about last week, and what it is to where um, we were talking about why do black women feel like they're not, or do they feel that they're protected? And the question is for this week: what can black men do to make black women feel protected? So we last week we talked about, do y'all feel protected? Now we want to know the answer. What can we do to make you feel better? What can we do to make you feel protected on a normal basis? Not just a one day thing, but a consistent basis. What can we do?
Um, I actually spent some time thinking about this because Taryn had sent me one of the feedback, and we both agreed that this topic is quite deep, and it affects so many women from the perspective of just like I think it brought up a lot of stuff for a lot of people, and so one of the things that struck me is that I just want to know how many women you on the panel know, or Darren as a woman, that has not experienced abuse in her life or in her family. Because I realized one of the reasons we feel so unprotected is because abuse has systemically been there. It's either your father, your grandfather, it's a trusted male. For a lot of black women, it's even their husbands. Now I know that this generation of men has done a lot. I mean, I think that this generation of men, I have personally seen the most exceptional fathers, like versus like our generation of fathers. Like comparably, it's chalk and cheese. But when it comes to safety, a lot of women still feel this way, even from their partners, even from their fathers or grandfathers. And there's a reason for that. And I think it's specific to each family. But I want to know from the rest of you, do you know a woman in your own family who has never been touched by a form of abuse or violence that compromised their safety?
Ooh.
I will say every single woman I know, every woman I know has been through some form of abuse, whether it be sexual abuse, physical, verbal, emotional. Every woman I know. And of all those women I know, one of the abusers was a man. At least one. At least one of the abusers was a man. So we were talking about comments from, and I actually have it open, and I think it might be the same comment that we referring to, Janelle. There was a lady that responded to the clip that I posted on WhatsApp, and she said, "This was so good. For me personally, it stems from my childhood, more specifically, my father. I have never, and I still don't feel protected." This woman is over 50 years old. "I have never, and I still don't feel protected. I have never even felt protected in any of the romantic relationships I've been in." So that's the first thing I want to say. And that for me was powerful. I feel like this conversation has opened up a can of worms because there were so many women coming to the fore saying, we don't speak about this. We always are quiet. We have been conditioned to protect the abuser. If we expose, if we talk about, if we say this person did that, it destroys his reputation. So we sit in silence. How many rape cases have not been reported because the perpetrator is somebody in the family, the perpetrator is a close family friend, the perpetrator is somebody that we know very closely, it's not a stranger, and so parents don't believe us, or we are conditioned, like I said, to keep that to ourselves, and we don't expose the perpetrator because what about their reputation, what about their future, what about their job, but then what about us? We have not been looked after in that way. So that's what I want to say on that. And then also, I have learned, the question is, what can a Black man do to protect women, Black women? I have learned that protection looks different to different people. So we had a situation in our marriage where I had a little thing with a friend, told my husband about it, and his way of protecting was fight. That was his first instinct, his natural instinct was he's gonna fight this friend because why did the friend hurt me? And for me, that's a trigger. It wasn't protection at all, it was combative. And I didn't feel protected. I didn't feel protected by my friend, and I didn't feel protected by my husband. Although my friend and I had sorted the thing out, so we were fine. But because he went straight guns blazing, that didn't look like protection to me. Protection to me is a covering and more in a calm way. So I think that there needs to be a conversation also like, what does protection look like to you? What is it that would make you feel protected? What is it that's not going to trigger you into remembering whatever your triggers are, however you were abused? Because when he goes into combat mode, that triggers my abuse. So then I don't feel protected. When my husband and I are having a calm conversation, I am so much more receptive. I feel protected. But the minute he raises his voice, the minute it goes to another level, I go into how do I protect myself now? Because now I feel exposed and I feel unprotected, even in the home. So when we can establish what protection looks like, that's when we as women can begin to heal. Like this lady over 50 said, she's never felt protected, even in romantic relationships. I think there's a healing that we need to go through as women because of how we were abused in whatever form that was. And then we can move forward and say, this is what protection looks like to me, and I will feel protected if. But I don't even think we know the answer to that because we've always been conditioned to keep quiet.
I I've talked to a lot of women. It like what you ladies are saying. I would have to agree with you. Almost every woman that I've dated has had some type of abuse. And statistics say here in the States, it's an 85% chance that if you are raped or sexually assaulted, it's an 85% chance that person either related to you or a very good friend of yours. So it's really one of those things. And so this is a definitely a tough topic.
I think there's that old adage of for evil to prevail, good men should do nothing. And a few years ago, I did okay, is Michael still here with us? Is he still talking? Taryn, you're muted.
I was just saying, Michael, you're muted. We can't hear you. Oh, there he goes. Randy, I swear that the internet in that house is not that bad. I think it might be this this app because we don't usually have struggles.
Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
I'm not sure. Welcome
So
back.
I'm sorry about that, but where I'm from, protection is fighting, taking up for you, making sure that you're okay. But what I have realized about being with my wife, like she said, protection is different in every woman's eye. A lot of the women where I'm from, that's protection. Taking up, fighting for you, blah blah blah. And do I think intelligently is that a good way to look at it? No, it's not really protection. But every woman has their thing. But I feel like you have to heal. You have to heal. I can't fix something that happened, and this is not me being mean. I can't fix something that happened 15 years ago. That's something you have to heal from, and you have to do the work. And I really feel counseling is definitely will help that. But as far as from this moment on, if you're with someone, if you are healed, what does protection look like?
Can I just say that as I was saying earlier, that, for evil to prevail, good men should do nothing. And I think one of the things that men can and actually should do is exercise their actual divine leadership that they have by virtue of the masculine. And when I say that because often as women, and why we take abuse is because of this requirement of submission. And submission comes from a point of surrender that I think is highly feminine, is something that we are actually intrinsically wired to do, but then it gets skewed when there's abuse because now we have to protect ourselves. We can't be vulnerable and we can't be fully female. And that deprives the masculine, it deprives the male because you don't get a full female experience, someone that's comfortable in her sexuality, someone that's like willing to be open or explore with you because she's been traumatized. So she closes up instead of opening up. And that is the feminine. The feminine, when it is in its full and unabused form, is to be open, is to be vulnerable. And then the masculine, in my opinion, is to be a leader and is to be a protector. And so I think going forward, men need to step into that and they need to stop copping out and going like, oh, you've been traumatized in your past, and so you go heal. Also, men need to heal because the same fathers that abused us raised you. And so now you guys are fathers and you need to raise the next generation. So go be men and go fix it, because then don't have the requirement of us that we should be submissive or that we should be vulnerable and even open to you. Because last time when we spoke, Michael, you said sometimes you'd greet someone and they frown and they won't even, but that's because this has happened. And so they don't know you. They don't know if they can smile with you because we know that our perpetrators are known to us. So why am I going to open myself up to you? And that's the conundrum. So when the masculine offends the feminine, the job is not for the feminine to appease the masculine. The job is for the masculine to actually step into that leadership that is assigned and to do the thing and actually go fix it. And that is something that as a collective, as men, and I feel that this generation is capable of doing. But that's the work.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off of what you were saying there, Janelle. We watched a video once, Michael and I, that there was a lady in the car, a guy drove up, he said hi to the lady rolled, he wanted to tell her that her tire was flat or something like that, but the minute he said hi, she rolled her window up real quick and she was like, I have a boyfriend. No, right? And he said, you see, that's why we don't help women, that's why we don't talk to women, because immediately you'll think that we're after something else. And I said, if you look at it from a woman's perspective, you would understand how 99% of the time a hello like that is not going to go to a good place, because then we are objectified, we are looked at as sex symbols, there's inappropriate comments made, there's little robberies of phones or whatever. So like for me as a South African woman especially, if I am stopped at a traffic light, that's when I am most paranoid, that is when I am most anxious, that is when I'm looking around the most, because at any point a man, which has happened to me before, and most of the women that I know, will be at your window trying to get your phone. I've had a gun put to my head. So for me, if I'm walking and a stranger greets me, my first instinct is to protect myself. And it's not a rude thing, it's not an arrogant thing, it's not I think I'm better than, that's why I won't greet. It's literally, I go into, as you said, the masculine, and I feel like I need to be my protector. I cannot operate in my feminine.
So Randy, how do you, not to put you on the spot, Randy, but how do you feel about it? Like, as far as what you're hearing and where you were brought up and everything, how do you feel about it?
I think it starts with the childhood. I think it starts with that person's childhood. I keep thinking about the 67% of Blacks that are being raised in single parent homes. And I think about the men and women that live in those homes that they're being cared for by their mothers, because in that percentage, the mothers are the parents that they're living with. So if the father is absent, who's there to how can a little girl feel protected if her father isn't there to protect her, right? How can a boy know how to protect a woman if the father isn't there to teach him, right? So I think that it's very important to have both parents in the household in order to display how a man can protect a woman. And then also, Janelle and Taryn touched on abuse in your childhood. And I do believe the uncles, the cousins who are supposed to be there to protect them are the ones that usually are the abusers when it comes to women facing abuse in their childhood or being sexually assaulted, things of that such. So I think I have to touch on the childhood. I think it starts from the childhood. And if more fathers played a role in their kids' lives, I think that would change the dynamic of things, you know.
Okay. I would definitely have to agree. I think if you really think about it, I'm not sure how it is in South Africa, but in the States, when you do have a single parent household, right? So you have that mom who's always working, and she has this daughter, and every blue moon, she wants to go out. Somebody has to be there to watch that little girl, and the thing is, a lot of mothers are not thinking that far ahead. Nowadays, I see a lot of mothers are, but back when I was growing up, it was like, oh, you can stay with cousin such and such. He'll watch you. And things would happen that little girl would never talk about until she got older. So if you did have that father, not saying fathers don't abuse daughters, because I've seen that happen. Not seen it happen, but I've heard stories of it happen. But I just think that the numbers would be a lot less as far as abuse if fathers were in the home. And being able not just to show the son how to treat a wife, but also show the daughter that she is protected, and show the son how to protect her, and really go from there. So
I think that there is a distinction, Michael, between a father being a home and a good father being in a home. A mother wouldn't be a single mother because she trusted that man. She wouldn't be a single mother if she made the choice to leave that person. It was probably the safest thing for her to do for herself and possibly for her children, So there are those dynamics, and we can't simply say to single parents, mothers and fathers, that if the other was in the home, it would automatically solve the problem. It's like, no, you need a good such person, someone who is invested in actually wanting to be in a family in the first place. Because I think it's very easy to make the baby. It's very difficult to raise a family. And
yeah, I agree.
that's the distinction here.
I agree, but I will say this, and I'm probably gonna go against the grain on this. Would you agree that comes with not knowing basically who you're dealing with? As far as I know, a lot of mothers that are single, because at the end of the day, once the child is conceived, they thought they knew who they was dealing with, but they really don't.
So that's the feminine. That is a woman meeting someone, feeling a connection with that person and thinking, you're a good person. But then that's also the masculine that's like, I am going to peacock for you. I am going to show you all the good side, and I'm going to make it a point to not show you any of the bad side. And lots of women have experienced this. Some of them have been in their marriages for years, decades even, before they realized that there was a complete side to this person that they hadn't met. And I don't think that that's solely on one person. I think people change and people evolve, but sometimes somebody has an underlying thing that they know not to bring to the table when they are interacting because they want what they want. Then they get what they want. And then once they have it, now they feel comfortable in actually exposing, this thing.
Yeah.
And so, no, she didn't know who she was getting into, but she decided, because every little girl wants to fall in love. I don't know if it's the same for men. I can't speak on this, but every little girl wants to fall in love. They want to have their romantic fairy tale, whatever. They want to meet their person and they want to just be swept off their feet. That's I think, a universal standard, just like, and I think every person in life wants to have love and a family and a home, and they don't want to be proved wrong. That nobody gets into a relationship and goes like, you could potentially be a bad guy that's gonna hurt me and that's gonna destroy my life. Nobody does that. I think humans, and I don't think it's just women, I think human beings, men and women, like when they get into a sort of like a partnering relationship, they are making a choice to trust. And now what's happened is trust has been broken. And so now this woman has to, or this person needs to make a decision to leave. And then they're also broken at the same time. And I don't say this lightly. I say this because I actually know one of my kids' parents who is actively making a decision to leave her marriage because her husband showed her after 2 kids who and what he was. And she thought she knew him and she trusted him, and now has to pivot in her 40s with 2 kids and, in a difficult economy and needing to find a new home and needing to build a new life and find safety, actual physical safety for herself and her children. Those are not things that make women stupid. It makes them trusting. It makes them female and feminine and wanting love and a family. And then that doesn't happen.
Okay.